A worried grandmother files a missing persons report for her granddaughter. However, police feel like their hands are tied because, by all accounts, it seems like the granddaughter is with her mother and father, and they just happen to be traveling. However, when the mother and father are later located, the granddaughter is nowhere to be seen. Where is Zaela Walker? It's time to turn on the searchlight. Hey everyone, John Lorden here. Thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Brainscratch Searchlight. Let's take a look at a picture, one of the most adorable pictures I've seen. This is Zaela Walker, and unfortunately, she was 2 years old the last time her grandmother saw her. She is now 3 years old, but we don't know where she is, and her parents have done some pretty strange things. We're going to go into all that. This case is really troubling because there's a natural challenge that's happening when the grandmother thinks something is wrong and files the missing persons report, and the police learn that it seems like Zaela is with her parents. So it's almost like there's this stopgap between when the missing persons report goes out and where things actually start happening. So it's tough. Even in terms of the media I'm seeing on this case, there's not a lot of media from the time that Zaela actually went missing. There's a lot of media now because of some of the developments of it. Let's start with the basics of this case over at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a profile on Zaela Walker. She's been missing since August 23rd, 2018. We're coming up on 4 months, so definitely some big cause for concern, but there's some really strange aspects to this case that make it seem like she might be with someone else, and we'll definitely get to all that. She's missing from North Las Vegas, Nevada. Her date of birth is October 12th, 2015, so obviously she's had a birthday since she's been missing. She is now 3 years old. We are looking at a black female, brown eyes. It looks like dark brown hair. They don't actually have it listed here. They have her height at 1 foot. I don't believe that's accurate. I've seen other pictures of her where she's standing next to toys. I think she's probably closer to 2 feet, might even be a little over that. Her weight is listed at 27 pounds. Let's go ahead and continue with some more. Now, this is a bit of an interesting missing poster because initially it seems like the whole family was missing. So here we see photos not only of Zaela, but of Lakia and Ricky, her parents as well. Same information, missing from Las Vegas, Nevada, although the date missing here is August 22nd. Lakia is 27 years old. Ricky is 27 years old. They're not missing currently. So I just wanted to show you guys how this information was kind of rolling out at the time. Zaela, they have her listed at 25 pounds, thin build. I was just hoping that we might be able to get some better details, in particular about her height. But here's a picture, a full body picture of her, and you can see she's definitely over 1 foot tall. For clothing, they don't really have too much. They have Zaela was seen wearing pajamas and gold bracelet. And I'm not sure where that sighting actually happened, if that was just the last time that the grandmother had seen her. But that is the best that we have for information on this case. Unfortunately, I don't see a NamUs profile that has been started for this yet, or if it has been started, it's not public yet. So one thing that we do get from the actual time that this happened, or around the time, are a few press releases that were put out by the North Las Vegas Police Department. And this is the first one, Missing Endangered Juvenile. And this came out on November 30th. So, we're already kind of behind the ball in terms of getting a jump on this case if we're talking over 2 months after the actual disappearance. But detectives need the public's help locating a juvenile that went missing in late August in North Las Vegas. On Saturday, August 25th, North Las Vegas police officers were dispatched to a residence in the 4600 block of Mission Cantina Avenue in reference to a report of a missing 2-year-old juvenile. The preliminary investigation showed 2-year-old Zaela Walker was last seen with her parents, 27-year-old Lakia Walker and 27-year-old Ricky Beasley, in North Las Vegas. Detectives placed the 3 missing persons' names into the national database in an attempt to locate the family. After several months, detectives received word the parents were located. On Saturday, November 17th, 2018, Texas Department of Safety officers came into contact with Lakia and Ricky, who did not have custody of Zaela. Both claimed to have no knowledge of Zaela's whereabouts and became uncooperative. Detectives are seeking any information on the whereabouts of Zaela and are hopeful Zaela was left with an unknown associate of Lakia and Ricky in the Las Vegas Valley. Anyone with information on this case is asked to contact the NLVPD, which I'll have their contact information in the description box below. And I think because of this initial piece of information that comes out about them being in Texas, that might be why, if we look back at the profile we were looking at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, they have a note down here that she may have traveled to the state of Texas. But honestly, that was just one stop out of, I think, at least 5 different states. So the chances that she could still be in Texas, obviously it's feasible because we know that her parents were at least spotted there. But I don't know that that is ultimately where she still is. There is another update that is issued by the NLVPD on December 3rd, 2018. On Saturday, December 1st, 2018, the North Las Vegas Police Department received a tip from the public that 27-year-old Lakia Walker and 27-year-old Ricky Beasley were seen at a local casino located near Civic Center Drive and Cheyenne Avenue. Officers arrived and detained Lakia and Ricky. After interviews, Ricky was initially booked at the Las Vegas City Jail on traffic-related charges and taking a vehicle without owner's consent. Lakia was released and is cooperating with investigators. So we have a bit of a switch that has gone on with this story here between the first press release saying that when officers first found them, both of them were being uncooperative. But now we have Ricky being booked and Lakia being released and cooperating with investigators. Are we going to find out what's to all this? We'll keep digging. Continuing at news3lv.com, here I have a video capture that has been paused, but you can see that Zaela's grandmother is very concerned, very upset about where her granddaughter is, and it's a bit of a touching interview. Of course, there's a lot of passion in what she's talking about, but she's also very clear she won't let her mind go to the spot where the worst could have happened to Zaela. And there's enough things here where I think there's other possibilities that really have to be looked at. There's just some very strange turns. The pain of not knowing where 3-year-old Zaela Walker is just too much for her grandmother, Carla Richardson. She can't call me and say, Nana, come get Sweet Pea. She can't tell me if they are not feeding her. She can't tell me if they're not clothing her. It's cold outside, Richardson said. Zaela loves to dance and rushing to the door to give her grandma and grandpa a big hug after coming home from work. She would tell us all the time, I miss you so much. I miss you so much. I just want Zay to know her Nana misses her so much, Richardson said. A spokesperson for North Las Vegas Police said there are no charges against the parents in connection with Zaela's disappearance as of Friday, but that situation could change. And this is an article from Friday, November 30th. So I do believe that situation is going to change very quickly. December 3rd, 2018, father charged with kidnapping, child abuse, and neglect in case of missing 3-year-old. Now, I'm curious about some of these charges because it would seem that they have some information about her being abused, but we don't know where she is. So my assumption about this is that information has to be coming from someone that they're trusting, very close to the situation. It's possible that her mother is giving them some information that they're acting on, and that's where some of these charges are actually coming from. Let's continue into the article here. Police did confirm that although Lakia went willingly with Ricky, he was controlling, and there is a history of domestic issues between the two. So that gives us some insight into possibly why we had her seeming uncooperative when they were pulled over in Texas. And now later, when they're back home and he's being booked and charged, she's basically going through the split and saying, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to give them the information they need, and starts cooperating with police. Moving on to fox5vegas.com, we are looking at what I believe is the actual booking photo for Ricky off of this arrest. But can we find out what was going on with this trip? Where did they go to? Let's go to the article. In court documents filed at the end of September and released on Monday, police said Beasley went on a multi-state road trip with the girl's mother, Lakia Walker. Police said the two went on the trip to, quote, rekindle their relationship, but no one knew that they were leaving. In the following weeks, friends and family of Walker pleaded on social media for their return. Quote, sometimes we have more questions than answers. In this case, it's dramatically in that favor, said North Las Vegas police spokesman Eric Leavitt. Police said the two went to Tennessee, Arkansas, Mexico, and Texas, but that Zaela was not with them. It's still unclear what happened to Zaela or when she was separated from her parents. I think earlier I said that they were in 5 states. Here we're talking about Tennessee, Arkansas, Mexico, which is not a state, it's a different country, and Texas. So we have 3 states listed here. But if you take a look at the map and knowing that they were actually driving, they're starting in Nevada. We know that they dropped down to Mexico at some point. From there, I suppose they could have gone to Texas, so we can get to 2 states there. But for them to get to Alabama, they had to cross at least Arkansas or Louisiana, Mississippi, and that would get them to Alabama, and then they would get to Tennessee. So I think the assumption that it's more like 5 states that we're looking at seems to be logical and makes sense. Continuing at news3lv.com, a newly released court document reveals new details. And here is a really bizarre twist. A criminal complaint states Beasley's mother reported him missing just 2 days before Zaela and her mother were reported missing back in August. It states Beasley was traveling in his mother's car and failed to return home with it as the two had agreed upon. He also failed to show up to work. Beasley and an unnamed associate, I believe they're talking about Lakia here, were reported in Tennessee and Arkansas. In September, Beasley and that unnamed person were also stopped by Border Patrol after returning from a trip to Mexico. An assisting officer with the San Diego Police Department questioned Beasley and the unnamed person regarding being reported missing. So there it certainly sounds like we're talking about Lakia. It's just the document has been redacted. The full document is actually in this article. So if you guys want to read it for yourself, you can. But with all the name redactions going on, it does get a little tricky. The report states they both confirmed that they were not missing nor endangered. The officer reportedly contacted Beasley's mother regarding her car, but because it wasn't reported stolen at the time, police were not able to take him into custody. His mother's car was later reported as stolen, and a warrant was issued for his arrest on the charge of grand larceny. Continuing on to reviewjournal.com, we get another interesting piece of information. Prior to Beasley's arrest weeks later in North Las Vegas, Richardson, the grandmother, said she spoke to Walker, the mother, over the phone on November 18th. During that conversation, Richardson said Walker claimed Zaela was with Beasley's family. Richardson said she had spoken to Beasley's mother, who had not seen Zaela. So obviously by November 18th, if she's talking to her daughter and she's getting a story about where Zaela is and she can't confirm it because she actually reaches out to Beasley's mother, something is really, really wrong with this case. Moving on to another article at news3lv.com. The judge sets $500,000 bail for father of missing 3-year-old girl. And I'm glad that they're being really tough with him on this case. Ricky Beasley, 27, faced the judge in North Las Vegas Justice Court in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. The judge set his bail at $500,000. Beasley's family was present in the courtroom but did not want to speak with News 3. There's a few situations that are running through my head. First of all, we have them taking a trip to Mexico. And I know several people out there are probably thinking trafficking. And I do think that there is some possibility that we have to look into of that could be pretty strong in this case, because we have them crossing an international border. We have them running around the country in a way that I can't quite understand. I mean, what is that trip about? They don't seem to be going any particular place. Maybe that's part of the plan. They're just on the run, just trying to run away from the questions that are coming from the family that they've left behind about, hey, where's our granddaughter? We haven't seen her in several months now. But then they kind of sneak back into North Las Vegas and, get busted. It doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense here. But if this is a trafficking situation, if this is a situation where for some reason they wound up selling this little girl in some way, there is no way it's worth it. His bail is set at $500,000. This guy isn't going anywhere until police know where this little girl is. So it's really, I don't know what we're going to see develop in this case. I know the grandmother doesn't want to consider these things, but I know many of us brain scratchers are also thinking, was this girl potentially harmed in some way? Was there something that led up to them leaving on this trip where they were running all over the country until maybe they ran out of money or something along those lines? I mean, Ricky didn't even take his own car. He wound up taking his mother's car for long enough that she eventually reports it stolen, and he's facing a charge for that as well. It is just, it's a bizarre thing that has gone on here. What scares me about it is it seems like acts of desperation or escapism, and that concerns me. But outside of that, there's a lot of distance that's been covered. There's a lot of travel that's happened around this, and I do think that there might be some chance that Zaela is still out there waiting to be found. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this video today. We're looking at a big section of the United States that she could be in, and we're also looking in Mexico where she could have been taken to. So please, please, please share this video. Let's get this little girl's face out there so people are looking for her, aware that she is missing, aware that she has a family that's waiting for her to come home. I don't know if charges might eventually come to her mother. I don't know if the mother is the best tool that the prosecution has against the father at this point. But that's another part of this case that bothers me. If there was some risk that Zaela had been harmed or was no longer alive, wouldn't the mother know about that? So why would police be trusting her in this way? That leads me to believe that there's something else at play here that we just don't know about. Some other condition where this girl was taken somewhere and given to someone else. I think that possibility is really, really strong in this case. And I don't see that often in cases like this. But when we have this bizarre travel and we have this kind of strange stuff that's going on in terms of how the police are treating one parent versus the other, despite the fact that they both went on this crazy excursion together, it leads me to believe there's a really good chance of it. So that's why I want to be sure that Zaela's face gets out there, and I ask that you please help me do that. And apparently, I'm not the only person that thinks there's a good chance that she could be alive. NLV police hopeful missing toddler is alive. Police say they didn't have enough information to prove the child was in danger when she was first reported missing. They are now developing a timeline, hoping it leads them to little Zaela. But at this point, they have more questions than answers. Her family reported her and her parents missing. Relatives thought it was weird that they left and thought it was a red flag at that point, said Eric Leavitt from the NLVPD. The child's mother is not a suspect in the case and is talking with police. There's that weird aspect to all this because we know that she was at least with the baby's father on this trip. Right now, we don't have Zaela, so we don't have the full story, Leavitt said. I don't know why they can't have the full story if they really have the mother cooperating with them, unless whatever happened to Zaela happened before the mother and the father were taken or went off on this trip. Investigators believe Zaela may be with her father's friend or associate. They want that person to come forward saying they are not in trouble. Police just want to locate Zaela. And finally, over at Fox 5, what led up to the kidnapping charge was new information, said Leavitt. I said no particulars will be given on that. Police on Tuesday couldn't say too much about the investigation because it's still an active case. The hashtag Find Zaela Walker is being used on Facebook as well as missing persons flyers made by community members. And despite the long timeline, police are optimistic. Still hopeful, said That's Levitt, isn't it? I've been saying leave it this whole video, so my apologies. I believe that's Levitt. Still hopeful, said Levitt. It's not a recovery at this point. They're still getting lead after lead. North Las Vegas police have dedicated 4 investigators who have been working around the clock on Zaela's case. There is also a web sleuths thread on this. I'll have a link to that down below as well. It's 4 pages. Not a ton of different information than we've covered here, but if you want to dive a little bit deeper, that is a good resource for doing so. One more thing I wanted to share with you guys before we end today's video. Apparently, when Lakia last saw her mother, she told her, "I'll be right back," and she just disappeared and went on this state and country jumping excursion with Ricky. I don't know what's going on with this case, guys. It's a really, really strange one. So let's talk about it in the comments below. I want to hear your theories. What do you think is happening? Why isn't Lakia being charged in all this as well? Is it possible that she doesn't really know where Zaela is, but she went driving with Zaela's father for all this time? She wouldn't have been wondering, wouldn't have been asking or even hounding him about where's my daughter? There's just so much strangeness going on. I know we don't have the full story here, but if you think you have another piece about it, another piece for this puzzle, I guess I should say, let's discuss that in the comments down below. Thank you for spending this time with me on Brainscratch Searchlight. I appreciate having you guys out there caring about these cases like I do. Take care, and I'll see you back here on Friday with a brand new episode of Brainscratch.